Thank you, Esther, for that very nice introduction. And thank you for your friendship and unwavering commitment to ADL, to our community, and to our country. Through your service, Esther, you've touched so many lives directly and many more thousands indirectly. I also want to just take this moment to thank our board of directors, our Global Advisory Council, our National Commission, so many supporters who are here today, and our corporate sponsors for helping to ensure the success of this remarkable conference. And I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your busy lives to join us here for the 4th annual Never Is Now conference. And most of all, maybe, I got to thank the high schoolers, the 300 high schoolers who are here. Where are you? Are you guys awake yet? Nice. Who's happy to miss class, right? This year, Never Is Now has grown so big that we had to move it here to the Javits Center. But I'll be honest with you, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm inspired and uplifted by the outpouring of support, by the commitment all of you have shown to fighting anti-Semitism and bigotry, being here today to make our nation and our world a place without hate. But in reviewing the past year, we all know that your commitment is needed more than ever. That violent anti-Semitism, shootings, muggings, and attacks are on the rise. We've all read the reports of swastikas on gravestones, on synagogue walls, on garage doors. We've seen the reports of high school kids who think it's funny to sling Heil Hitler salutes at each other. And we hear the near endless stream of political rhetoric from politicians across the spectrum who blame the globalists for their troubles, or who condemn the Jews with their money controlling Congress, or who insinuate dual loyalties. And then beyond the Jewish community, we see black churches burned to the ground, mosques defaced in the ugliest of ways, refugees and immigrants dehumanized. Just the other day, a Peruvian immigrant in Milwaukee was asked by a man on the street why he, quote, invaded his country, and then the man had acid thrown in his face. And then, of course, the shooting in El Paso, or the shooting in Poway. It's so much that it's easy to grow numb, but we can't and we won't. You see, my friends, today I am here, you are here, because we all feel, as Dr. King put it, the fierce urgency of now, and that in this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there is such a thing as being too late. Now, we know from our own history the consequences of being too late, of allowing complacency to win out over courage, apathy to overtake action, and the time for action is now. Consider the FBI statistics that were released just about 2 years ago. Jews were the target of the most religion-based hate crimes, despite the fact that we're just 2% of the population. Or the fact that hate crime murders totaled 27 last year, the highest since the FBI began tracking these numbers back in 1991. Or let me tell you about where I was just a little over a week ago. I was standing with a range of elected officials and faith leaders at Borough Hall in Brooklyn to announce a new ADL effort to dramatically expand our No Place for Hate education program to another 10,000 students. Now, we were doing this because in 2017, there were over 200 reported anti-Semitic incidents in New York City. That was a 90% jump over 2016. And last year, 13 out of 17 anti-Semitic assaults that took place in the Big Apple happened in Brooklyn. And this year, the situation is actually getting worse. Those incidents are becoming more aggressive, more dangerous, and more frequent. But despite this fact, these attacks in broad daylight on Orthodox Jews hasn't gotten nearly enough media attention. You know, perhaps that's because it doesn't slot neatly into some pre-cooked partisan narrative. Maybe it's because this is a situation that you can't blame on one side of the political spectrum or the other. But mothers and fathers are afraid, and with good reason. If their children walk down the streets of Brooklyn, say with a kippah on their head, they are taking a risk that would have once been unimaginable. And remember, we're not talking about Berlin or even Boise. We're talking about Brooklyn. Look, at the ADL, we are so concerned about the increase in anti-Semitic incidents that we are starting an anti-Semitism tracker on our website so people can see what's happening as it happens. Because we need to understand the problem and its scope and its magnitude in order to act on it. And it's not just what we see here in the US. Look at the numbers ADL is releasing today from our Global 100 Index. You know, we do the most comprehensive study of anti-Semitic attitudes in the world. And let me tell you, the results aren't pretty. In Eastern and Central Europe, huge majorities believe that Jews have too much power in business and in finance. In Western Europe, in countries like Austria or Italy or Germany and Spain, more than 40% of the population believe that Jews are more loyal to Israel than to their own country. And in the UK, you don't even need to take a poll to see how anti-Semitism can infect a society. Next month, there'll be a general election in the UK in which one of the major parties will be led by an out-and-out anti-Semite, a man who revels in his anti-Zionism, which, by the way, make no mistake, that's just a PC way of describing anti-Semitism, period. So how bad is it in the UK? Well, nearly half of British Jews said in a recently published report that if Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party win in those elections, they will seriously consider emigrating. So yes, my friends, there is fierce urgency. And today you will learn what we are doing about it and what you can do about it. You'll have the chance to listen to a member of the British Parliament who left the Labour Party over its refusal to address anti-Semitism. You'll be able to hear how ADL is supporting a path-breaking effort to bring the Nazis and extremists behind the melee in Charlottesville to justice and to make them pay for their crimes. You'll hear from one of the most innovative CEOs in America about how he is modeling a new kind of leadership, building a business that's opposed to hate, one that's grounded in basic human values, even as it's generating massive shareholder value. You can explore what we're doing to fight BDS and other anti-Semitic movements on college campuses. And you'll be able to understand how ADL works to build coalitions across communities and why that is so critical to successfully stopping hate. And at our plenary sessions, literally we've got a star-studded group of people who are using their fame and talent to stand up for those who may not have a voice. And if I might add, our Broadway panel will have some of the most beautiful voices you will ever hear. So believe me, it will be intense. And you know, after hearing about all the forces that seek to demean and to denigrate and to divide us, I understand it may be dispiriting. Look, I know how it can get you down. When you work at ADL, you are acutely aware of the hate in the world. But we also see the good. A little over a year ago on a Shabbat morning in Pittsburgh, we saw the violence that hate can generate. I think each and every one of us in this room, across the country, will never forget where we were when we heard the news of the massacre at the Tree of Life Synagogue. It was a dark day. And just a few weeks ago, I was at the first Yortzeit, or period of mourning, the anniversary, one-year anniversary of the deaths of the Pittsburgh 11. The city was marking the occasion, and I felt that I had to go. That's why I found myself on a fall afternoon in western Pennsylvania in a huge hall filled with people for the memorial service on that one-year anniversary. And as we were standing there, and as we waited for the event to begin, as people were milling about in a room maybe twice this size, waiting. Suddenly the crowd grew quiet. And we were all facing forward. But without warning, suddenly, silently, the University of Pittsburgh sports teams marched single file into the hall. Football and baseball. The women's crew, the men's track team, volleyball, wrestling, all of them. Silently, they walked down the aisles, dozens upon dozens of young people wearing their warm-up gear. There were Jews and non-Jews. There were African American people, Asian American, Latinos, all marching into the hall in total silence. It was powerful. People drew close. You could hear a pin drop. And you could see the diversity of these athletes. And you realized that what it did was it actually reflected the diversity in the crowd. Because in Pittsburgh, no one saw what happened at the Tree of Life as an attack on a single house of worship. Jews and Christians, Muslims and Sikhs and Hindus, they all stood together because it was clear this was an attack on the whole community, on everyone. And in the video we just saw a few minutes ago, we heard Judah Samet, a Tree of Life congregant and a Holocaust survivor, whose life was spared because he was 4 minutes late to shul that morning. He was in his car when the bullets rang out. And you heard what he said. Quote, "I have the right to believe that the world is a rotten place, but I don't." My friends, Judah is right. There are bad things that happen in the world, but anti-Semitism is not inevitable. Bigotry is not inevitable. Violence is not inevitable. We are living through some tough years right now in our country, but America is better than this. There are good people out there from all backgrounds, from all walks of life. They know right from wrong. They know that if we truly want a world without hate, they feel that fierce urgency of now, and they don't want to be late. These are our allies. This is you. And with your leadership and activism, I stand here today clear-eyed about the work, the hard work ahead, but absolutely optimistic and incredibly confident about our future. So let's get to work, because never is now. Thank you very, very much.